What are some tips that work for you? Shawn Ryan, you're one of the largest podcasts in the country. Former special ops, CIA contractor, certified badass. You highlight people that have interesting stories.
Number one, I just go with what I'm interested in. What am I gonna learn out of this? And are you gonna get vulnerable and inspire people? Talk about your hardships and how you got through them. It's almost like peeling back an onion, man. It's just, they start getting comfortable and then things start coming out and it turns into something beautiful. I just have no interest in regurgitated conversation. You know, I see it and I'm like, ooh, he's got some cool stuff to say.
Yeah.
And then you see him on another podcast. And then you see him on another podcast. And then you see, it's like, okay, he said the same shit on 6 different shows in 1 week. I'm not a talking points guy. It's like a therapy session. Do you like famous people? Do you find that interesting? How'd you make it?
Well, I met a manager and he got me a deal and the rest is history.
Cool, great story.
Shawn Ryan, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Bro, you've quickly become, I think, one of my favorite people in the world. And we haven't known each other that long.
I know. I know.
It's just something about, I think, your demeanor, the way that you interview people, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you're so unapologetically honest about who you are, the way that you're able to share your journey, but also highlight the journey and the struggles of others. I absolutely love it so much. And we're doing this podcast for the first time. It's my first time trying this outdoors. It's kind of outdoors. Hopefully it works out.
It'll work out.
Because it's supposed to work out. I feel like that's the journey. For anyone that's not aware, Shawn Ryan is former special ops, former CIA contractor, former certified badass. Probably done a lot of things in life that most of us can't even fathom. I think that gives you ultimate perspective. And he interviews some of the most interesting people in the world, and not most podcasters interview only famous people. You don't do that. Not really. You highlight people that have interesting stories.
Do you like famous people?
I hate famous people.
I mean, do you find that interesting? How'd you make it? Well, I met a manager and he got me a deal and the rest is history. Cool, great story. Next. Yeah. You know.
But you're one of the largest podcasts in the country. And you're the only one at the top of the charts not interviewing other famous people.
Well, I just do what I'm interested in. Kind of like, I think that's what you do. You know, I started thinking, oh, I need to get more famous people. I need to get a booking agent that has all the connections. But then you look, like I tried to get Dr. Phil. Didn't work out. You know, he wanted.
I can't believe Dr. Phil said no to you.
Well, he didn't necessarily say, I don't know what happened. I wasn't doing the reach out and this isn't a hit on him, but you know, I see it and I'm like, ooh, he's got some cool stuff to say.
Yeah.
And then you see him on another podcast and then you see him on another podcast. And then you see, it's like, okay, he said the same shit on 6 different shows in 1 week. That's not going to make you different. You're just doing what people do and going after I mean, it's just, it's the set, it's, you know, it's the typical thing.
Yeah.
You get celebrities and then you get in and you can only, I mean, you're going to hit the ceiling doing that. And I just have no interest in regurgitated conversation.
I love that when I watch a podcast episode of yours, I get introduced to something new. Because again, most people, you've seen them talk other places, they're regurgitating and they're recycling talking points. And then I watch a Shawn Ryan Show episode. I'm like, I've never thought about that. I don't know who this person is. This story and this episode is fascinating. And you take your time with them. It's not 1 hour, get your points across. This is where we're going to hit and let's go. It's we're going to start here and let's see where this thing goes. And sometimes you go 3-4 hours.
Oh man, we've gone 9 hours.
9 hours.
We've gone 9 hours. Yeah. True story. I think it was Bob Porras, the CIA guy.
How many breaks do you take in a 9 hour?
Well, that one, I think, I can't remember if we knocked that all out in 1 day. Sometimes we'll come back the next day. Tom Satterley, that was a 2-day interview. I did the Blackwater guys. I don't know if the guys that got sentenced to 33 of them got 35 years in prison. One of them got life in prison. Then they got pardoned by Trump. Nobody gave them an outlet to get their side of the story out, of course. Mainstream media narrative, which, wound up being complete bullshit. But that was a 2-day interview. But I just feel like you have to. I'm not a talking points guy, and like we get people to. It's like a therapy session,
Yeah.
And you got to take your time with that, and you build confidence and trust in the guest. As the interview moves on, and it's almost like peeling back an onion, man. It's just they start getting comfortable, and then things start coming out, and it turns into something beautiful.
Last time I was in Franklin, I visited your studio. And while you were showing me kind of the memorabilia on the wall, I mentioned to you that it felt heavy. Actually, the reality is I thought I had food poisoning. I was feeling so sick. At a certain point, I was about to tell you, dude, I feel like I need to sit down because I feel like I'm going to pass out. It felt that heavy in that room. And it's a feeling that I couldn't describe. And you were explaining to me, and I was sitting there, and I started kind of leaning on the chair. And I've never felt like that before, just like this weight on my shoulders of just this heaviness. And we sat down, and you started explaining to me kind of why you do what you do. And within 5 minutes, that entire feeling of this food poisoning feeling that I had, it was lifted. I've never experienced something like that before. It's just the weight of the stories that you've heard and the shared experience and the memorabilia that has this experience kind of built into the physical item. You could feel that energy. How do you deal with that on a daily basis, just knowing that that is around you all the time?
I compartmentalize. That's just what I do. I probably learned it back in the military, but I'm very good at compartmentalizing. But no joke. Like the show it's taken a toll on my mental health, and I mean, right before we started this, I was talking to Johnny about my psychedelics journey, and that led to my faith, which me and you have talked pretty extensively about, and it took me a long time to get the right team behind me, to support me, and we all support each other, and so it's like a big family over at our studio, and with everybody that's involved. We all take care of each other. We all watch out for each other. If somebody's, because these stories are heavy, man. They are. They don't just affect me. They affect the guys that edit it. They affect the guys that cut the reels and shit for social media. Like, everybody has to hear this, and they realize, like, how fucked up our country is, or how bad, it actually is for veterans that are returning home, or I mean, the sex trafficking stuff that's come out, and watching a 22-year-old guy, Tyler Andrew Vargas, hobble up those stairs with one leg and one arm because the current administration is completely incompetent. Maybe it's you know what I'm getting at. They're heavy stories, and it's reality. And so I'm always looking, to how can I improve my mental health, and it's been a progression.
What are some maybe tips that you've worked for you that maybe other people could think about or maybe even explore?
For just mental health in general?
Yeah, like how do you keep your shit together?
Well, you gotta, man, that's a tough question. But, for believers, for anybody, like you gotta put it on God, and you gotta realize you can't change everything. All you can do really is plant a seed in people's heads. And once that seed has been planted and you see it start to spread, then your job is done, and it's time to move on to the next thing. There's no shortage of things that need to be brought to the light, both good and bad. You got to highlight the good, and you got to highlight the bad, and once that job has been done, it's on to the next thing. I don't spend much time looking in the rearview mirror on success, failures, traumatic events. You just one foot in front of the other, keep moving forward, and look for the next thing to accomplish.
How important is success to you?
Well, what do you mean by that?
I mean, you said you got to look at your success, going 1 foot forward, trying to improve every day, trying to highlight stories. How much of what you're doing is, I want this to be successful, I want to grow, versus I want to inform or I want to help others? I mean, where do you find that balance?
Why are you asking all these tough questions? How do I find a balance or how important is success to me? I mean, there's so many different kinds of success. There's success of the show. There's successful interviews. There's financial success. There's all these things. And, when it comes to like success of an episode, number one, like, I quit paying attention to what I think people want me to do a long time ago. Actually, that was one of the first things that went away after my psychedelics thing. Not that I ever really fell into that, but, my podcast started only as talking to former colleagues of mine that were within the agency or some type of a special ops unit. And I can't talk about the same subject over and over and over enough, until I'm bored. And so I'm like, I'm going to dive into this cartel stuff and try to get to the bottom of some of that. I'm going to dive into the Blackwater massacre and figure out why these guys have never been given the opportunity to get their side of the story out. And so I just go with what I'm interested in, because I don't think success is just whoring yourself out for what you think your audience wants. I do what I'm interested in. If I'm not interested in it, I don't take the interview. I don't even care like how big the name is. I'll get requests all the time from A-list, insert A-list celebrity, and it's like, yeah, that's great, but what are we going to talk about? Like, I know who you are, and I know you have 20 million people on your accounts, and yeah, it'll probably get some views, but like, what am I going to learn out of this? And do you just want to sell your record? Or are you going to get vulnerable and like inspire people, talk about your hardships and how you got through them? Or are we just going to brag about the fucking cars that you drive and oh, you're a big business Mongol, and you know what I'm talking about? It's like, cool. Now we know everything you have. Cool. What kind of fucking person are you? And
I've had some of those interviews where people come in and I think it's going to be interesting, and they show up and they literally just selling themselves for an hour or 2 hours. And afterwards, it's like, oh yeah, when's it going to go live? I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm done. I have no interest. I listened to like 30 minutes of it. I actually stopped editing, and I'm just not dealing with this, because even afterwards, I'm like, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
It just doesn't provide value to anybody listening. I don't want to listen to it again, because I edited all my own stuff. So I got to listen to it again. I'm like, this is torture. Yeah. I have no interest in doing this again. I only got 30 minutes in. Like, if I can only get 30 minutes and I'm physically there, no one's going to care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't stay on, when it comes to like successful interviews, I'm always challenging myself too, and I don't try to find like the thing and then hammer that topic out forever, and do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, ooh, that one hit. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do the same. I'm not a one-trick pony, or whatever they call that, but I just go with what I'm interested in, and I stay true to my audience, meaning I'm not out there for, like, I haven't had a episode over the Trump assassination thing. Everybody's doing it. I saw major podcasters, and they're just getting every damn special ops guy they possibly can, and CIA guy, and It's like, what's the inside? Hey, dude, nobody fucking knows.
And it's going to be like JFK. We're going to find out in 100 years.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, I don't do I'm not going to say it's clickbait, and I'm not even going to say it's not important, because it's obviously important for people to cover that. But I'm kind of the guy that goes the opposite direction. Like, do what I do. Yeah, I do have somebody coming on to talk about that, but I want to give it a little breathing room for hopefully something will come out that's actually interesting other than just all this bullshit.
A lot of internet sleuths out there.
Yeah.
Doing diagrams and caliber and angles and But yeah, you know, I go after stuff that people aren't talking about, because it's different. It's new. It's not easy.